What if Mace Windu arrested Palpatine successfully? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Mace Windu's lightsaber hovers at Palpatine's throat, 1 inch from death. The Sith Lord's yellow eyes burn with hatred. His face is a ruin of dark side corruption. 3 Jedi Masters lie dead behind them, and then the doors burst open. Anakin Skywalker stands in the doorway. His eyes are wild, desperate, torn between everything he believes and everything he fears. Palpatine reaches toward him with a trembling hand. "Please, Anakin, I can save Padme. Only I have the power. This is the moment, the hinge point of galactic history." In another timeline, Anakin strikes. Mace dies. The Empire rises. Billions perish, but not here. Not today. Mace senses the conflict raging inside Anakin. He feels the young knight's desperation, his terror of losing his wife, his willingness to do anything to save her. He sees Palpatine's manipulation working in real time. And Mace Windu makes a decision that will change everything. He does not hesitate. He does not wait. He does not give darkness room to breathe. His free hand snaps forward. A concentrated burst of Force energy slams into Palpatine's temple. The Sith Lord's eyes roll back. His body crumples. Unconscious, defeated, arrested. Anakin freezes. The words die in his throat. The choice he was about to make vanishes before he can make it. "What did you do?" "I saved you." Mace deactivates his lightsaber. His dark eyes bore into Anakin's soul. I sensed what he was trying to do. The manipulation ends now. Anakin stares at Palpatine's unconscious form, the man who promised him salvation, the man who was going to teach him to cheat death. The man who, he now realizes, was never going to save anyone but himself. He said he could save her. He lied. That is what the Sith do. They find your deepest fear and twist it into a chain, but you are free now, Skywalker. The question is what you will do with that freedom. The Coruscant Guard arrives within minutes. Clone troopers flood into the office, weapons raised. Commander Fox takes in the scene, his helmet betraying nothing. Master Windu, what happened here? The Supreme Chancellor is a Sith Lord. He has been manipulating both sides of this war from the beginning. Place him in force-suppressing restraints immediately. He is to be transported to the Jedi Temple under maximum security. Fox hesitates for only a moment. "Sir, the Chancellor is the Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic. These orders are highly irregular." Mace fixes him with a stare that has made separatist commanders surrender entire fleets. "Commander, this man orchestrated the deaths of billions. He created the clone army to serve his own ends. He has committed treason against the Republic he swore to serve. You will follow my orders, or you will be complicit in the greatest crime in galactic history." "Choose." Fox straightens. "Yes, General." The next several hours are a blur of activity. Clone medics examine Palpatine's unconscious form, confirming that he is alive but deeply sedated by Mace's force strike. They load him onto a medical transport under heavy guard. Commander Fox assigns his best men to the escort detail, their weapons trained on the prisoner at all times. Anakin watches from the shadows of the shattered office. His mind races. Everything he believed has been turned inside out. The man who mentored him since childhood, who offered comfort when the Jedi seemed cold and distant, who promised him the power to save Padme. A Sith Lord, a monster. And yet, he cannot shake the memory of Palpatine's voice. "Only I have the power to save the one you love." Was it true? Was there really knowledge in the dark side that could prevent death? Or was it simply another manipulation? Another lie in an endless chain of lies. Mace approaches him. His expression is unreadable, but there is something almost gentle in his voice. "You should return to the temple. Skywalker, there will be questions. You will need to answer them." "I know. Do you understand what almost happened here?" Anakin meets his eyes. "I understand better than you might think." "Good. Then perhaps there is hope for you yet. The transport lifts off into the Coruscant twilight. Anakin watches it go, carrying the architect of so much suffering to face justice. He should feel relieved, triumphant even. Instead, he feels hollow, as if something vital has been torn out of him. But beneath the hollowness, something else stirs, something that feels almost like freedom. Within the hour, Sheev Palpatine is locked in specialized restraints designed to suppress Force abilities. The technology is ancient, developed centuries ago during the new Sith Wars. It has not been used in living memory. Now it binds the most dangerous being in the galaxy. The Jedi Temple becomes a fortress. Masters and knights take up positions throughout the structure. Padawans are confined to quarters. The archives are sealed. In the center of the highest security detention level, Palpatine sits in a cell surrounded by Ysalamiri. The Force-negating creatures create a bubble where his powers cannot reach. For the first time in decades, Darth Sidious is truly helpless. In the council chamber, the surviving masters gather. The empty seats of Kit Fisto, Agen Kolar, and Sai-Teen weigh heavy on them all. Yoda sits with his eyes closed, deep in meditation. Obi-Wan Kenobi arrived from Utapau the moment he received the emergency transmission. Ki-Adi-Mundi joins via hologram from Maigito, Plo Koon from Kato Neimoidia, Ayla Secura from Felucia. Before the council convenes formally, Mace provides a detailed account of the confrontation. He describes how Palpatine moved with inhuman speed when attacked, his lightsaber seeming to appear from nowhere. He describes the deaths of Kit Fisto, Agen Kolar, and Sai-Teen, each struck down in moments despite being accomplished duelists. He describes Palpatine's transformation, the way his face seemed to melt and reform into something monstrous as he channeled the dark side. Powerful he is, Yoda murmurs. Sensed him I did not. Clouded my vision was. Clouded by the dark side. He has been hiding in plain sight for over a decade, Obi-Wan says. Perhaps longer. How is that possible? The Sith are patient, Mace replies. They have spent 1,000 years preparing for this moment. Palpatine's ability to mask his presence is beyond anything we have encountered. Even now, with him unconscious and restrained, I can barely sense the darkness within him. It is as if he has woven the Force itself into a cloak of deception. The investigation of Palpatine's private chambers reveals horrors beyond imagination. Hidden behind a false wall in the Chancellor's public office, the Jedi discover a room steeped in dark side energy. Sith holocrons line the shelves, their red glow pulsing with malevolent awareness. Artifacts of terrible power are displayed in cases. A mask that whispers promises of immortality. A dagger that drinks the life force of its victims, scrolls inscribed with rituals too terrible to read. But the most damning discoveries are the communications. Encrypted transmissions to Count Dooku stretching back years, coordinating separatist movements and ensuring the war dragged on as long as possible. Financial records showing payments to the Trade Federation before the invasion of Naboo. Orders to the Kaminoans regarding the creation of the clone army, including the installation of the inhibitor chips, and detailed plans for something called Order 66. Mace reads the order aloud to the council, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. In the event of Jedi officers acting against the interests of the Republic, and after receiving specific orders verified as coming directly from the Supreme Commander, GAR commanders will remove those officers by lethal force, and command of the GAR will revert to the Supreme Commander until a new command structure is established. The words hang in the air. Lethal force. Against Jedi officers, on the order of the Supreme Commander. Who was Palpatine? He planned to murder us all, Ayla Secura says, her holographic form flickering with emotion. Every Jedi in the galaxy. With our own troops. Confirmed now it is. Yoda finally speaks. A Sith Lord, the Chancellor was. Controlled both sides of this war, he did. Played us all for fools. The evidence is overwhelming, Obi-Wan says, his voice heavy with exhaustion and disbelief. We found his private office, hidden behind the public chambers. It contains Sith holocrons, artifacts, and communications with Count Dooku dating back years. He did not just infiltrate the Republic. He created the separatist movement. He manufactured this entire war. To what end? Plo Koon asks. Mace leans forward. To destroy us. We have discovered protocols embedded in the clone troopers' behavioral chips, something called Order 66. When activated, it would have compelled every clone in the galaxy to execute their Jedi commanders without hesitation. The silence that follows is absolute. Millions of clones, thousands of Jedi. All of them would have died in a single instant of coordinated betrayal. The chips must be removed, Ki Adi-Mundi says. Immediately. Already begun that process has, Yoda replies. Working with Kaminoan scientists, our medical corps is, but time it will take. Careful we must be. Alert the clones to our suspicions, we cannot. Panic it would cause. The chip removal process begins in secret, hidden from the majority of the clone army. Select units are brought in for what they are told is routine maintenance or medical evaluation. The surgery is delicate, requiring precision that only the finest surgeons can provide. One by one, the inhibitor chips are extracted and destroyed. The Kaminoans cooperate fully once they understand the situation. Many of them are horrified to learn how their creation has been perverted. Lama Su, the Prime Minister of Kamino, personally oversees the development of new surgical protocols that can be implemented on a larger scale. We created these soldiers to defend the Republic, he says to the Jedi medical team, not to destroy it. Whatever assistance we can provide, we will give it freely. But the process is agonizingly slow. There are millions of clones spread across the galaxy. Even with the accelerated protocols, it will take months to reach them all. And every moment, the risk of discovery grows. Clone Commander Cody is among the first to have his chip removed. When he wakes from the surgery, he is disoriented. Fragments of memory that had been suppressed begin to surface. He remembers thoughts he should not have been able to think. Doubts about orders, questions about the war, affection for the Jedi he served alongside. General Kenobi, he says when Obi-Wan visits him in the recovery ward. I remember wanting to protect you, not because of orders, because you were my friend. Obi-Wan clasps his shoulder. You still are my friend, Commander. That was never the chip. That was you. But there was something else. Cody's face darkens. A voice, deep in my mind, telling me that if the order ever came, I would not hesitate. I would shoot you in the back without a second thought. And I believed it. I believed it was my duty. The chip made you believe that. But you are free now. What you do with that freedom is up to you. Cody is silent for a long moment. Then he straightens, his military bearing reasserting itself. I want to help. There are millions of my brothers out there with these things in their heads. They deserve to know the truth. They deserve the choice you have given me. Then help us reach them. We need commanders we can trust to oversee the process in other sectors. Will you serve? Sir. Yes, sir. There is another matter, Obi-Wan says quietly. He looks around the chamber, his expression troubled. Anakin. Mace nods. Palpatine had his hooks deep in him. The Chancellor has been grooming Skywalker for years. I sensed it in the office. The boy was conflicted. Palpatine was using his fear of loss to turn him. Fear of loss? Plo Koon asks. Loss of what? Obi-Wan closes his eyes. I believe I know, but it is not my secret to share. I ask the Council's permission to speak with Anakin privately before we proceed further. Yoda studies his former Padawan for a long moment. Know something you do, Obi-Wan. Important it is. It may determine whether Anakin Skywalker remains a Jedi or falls to darkness despite everything we have done. We have stopped Palpatine, but we have not yet saved Anakin. Go then, Yoda says. Save him you must. Need the chosen one, we do. Now more than ever. Obi-Wan finds Anakin in one of the temple's meditation gardens. The young knight sits on a stone bench, staring at nothing. His mechanical hand flexes and relaxes in an endless rhythm. He does not look up when Obi-Wan approaches. I know about Padme. Anakin goes still. How long? Long enough. I'm not blind, Anakin. Nor am I the enemy you seem to think I am. The Council will expel me. Perhaps. Obi-Wan sits beside him. Or perhaps this is the moment when everything changes. Not just for you, but for the Order itself. We have been so focused on rules and traditions that we failed to see a Sith Lord standing in front of us for over a decade. Maybe it is time to reconsider what truly matters. Anakin finally looks at him. His eyes are red. His face is drawn. He looks like a man who has not slept in weeks, because he is not. He told me he could save her, Obi-Wan. He said he knew how to stop people from dying. I've seen it in my dreams. Padme dies in childbirth. I hear her screaming. I feel her life slip away, and I cannot stop it. He said the dark side could give me the power to save her, and you believed him? I did not know what else to believe. The Jedi say attachment is forbidden. The Jedi say I must let go of those I love. But how can I let go of her? How can I watch her die and do nothing? Obi-Wan places a hand on Anakin's shoulder. You cannot. That is not what the Force asks of us. The Jedi teachings on attachment have been misunderstood for generations, Anakin, even by the Jedi themselves. We are not meant to be emotionless. We are meant to love without possession, to care without control, to accept loss without being destroyed by it. That does not help her survive. No, but this might. Obi-Wan turns to face him fully. The temple has some of the finest healers in the galaxy. We have medical technology that rivals anything in the core worlds. If Padme's pregnancy is complicated, if there is genuine danger, then we will address it with skill and science and the light side of the Force. Not with Sith sorcery and broken promises. The Council will never allow it. They will cast me out the moment they learn the truth. Then we will tell them the truth and see what they do. But I suspect you will be surprised. The Jedi Order just discovered that it has been dancing to a Sith Lord's tune for 13 years. We are in no position to cast judgment on anyone for making mistakes. Anakin stares at him. Why are you doing this? Why are you helping me? Because you are my brother, Anakin. Because I failed you. I knew you were struggling. I knew something was wrong. And I said nothing. I did nothing. I let my own adherence to protocol blind me to what you needed. That ends now. For a long moment, neither of them speaks. The garden's artificial breeze stirs the leaves of the meditation trees. Somewhere in the distance, a fountain burbles peacefully. I almost turned, Anakin whispers. In that office. When Mace was going to kill him. I almost stopped him. I almost helped Palpatine escape. I almost became exactly what he wanted me to be, but you did not. Only because Mace acted first. If he had hesitated even a second longer, I would have cut off his hand. I would have let Palpatine kill him. I would have fallen, Obi-Wan. I was that close. Obi-Wan nods slowly. And yet here you are, still in the light, still my brother, still the man I trained. What you almost did matters less than what you actually do from this moment forward. The dark side showed you a path. You did not take it. That is what counts. Anakin looks down at his mechanical hand, the hand he received after Dooku severed his flesh one, the hand that almost betrayed everything he believed in. What happens now? Now we go to the Council together. We tell them everything, about Padme, about the baby, about your visions, and then we find a way forward, together. They find the Council still in session. Obi-Wan requests permission to address them with Anakin present. It is granted. And for the next hour, Anakin Skywalker tells the truth for the first time in years. He tells them about his secret marriage to Padme. He tells them about the pregnancy. He tells them about the nightmares that have plagued him since the war began. He tells them how Palpatine exploited his fears, how the Chancellor whispered promises of power in his ear, how close he came to falling in that office. When he finishes, the silence stretches on. The masters exchange glances. Some faces show disappointment, others show understanding, some show both. Yoda speaks first. "Broken our rules you have, young Skywalker. Lied to us you did. Endangered yourself and others with your attachment." Anakin bows his head. "I know, Master. I accept whatever judgment the Council deems appropriate." Yoda continues, "But judge ourselves first we must. For failures of our own we have. Blind we were to Sidious. Blind we were to your struggles. So focused on the letter of the code, lost sight of its spirit we did. Perhaps time it is to examine what we believe and why." "Master Yoda," Mace interjects, "are you suggesting we simply overlook Skywalker's transgressions?" "I am suggesting," Yoda replies, "that casting out the Chosen One when we have just barely survived a Sith plot to destroy us would be the height of foolishness. Need Anakin Skywalker we do, and need to change we do as well. If his attachment to Senator Amidala is what kept him in the light when Palpatine tried to turn him, then perhaps attachment is not the poison we believed it to be." The discussion that follows is the most contentious in the Council's recent memory, but in the end, a consensus emerges. Anakin will not be expelled. His marriage will be recognized, quietly, if not publicly. The Jedi will begin a process of internal reform that is long overdue. But first, there is a trial to prepare for. The arrest of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine sends shockwaves across the galaxy. The HoloNet explodes with coverage. Senators demand answers. Planetary governments issue statements of shock and disbelief. Some call for Palpatine's immediate release, claiming the Jedi have staged a coup. Others call for his execution without trial. In the Senate chamber, Padme Amidala takes the floor. "My fellow senators, I know many of you are confused, frightened, angry. I share those feelings. Like you, I trusted Chancellor Palpatine. Like you, I believed he was guiding us through this terrible war with wisdom and compassion. I was wrong. We were all wrong." She activates a holographic display. Evidence recovered from the Chancellor's private office fills the chamber. Communications with Count Dooku. Financial records showing payments to the Trade Federation. Orders authorizing the creation of the clone army years before anyone knew a war was coming. Sith artifacts bearing his personal seal. "This is not a Jedi plot," Padme continues. "This is the truth we were all too blind to see. Sheev Palpatine is not just a corrupt politician. He is a Sith Lord. He engineered this entire war. He created the separatist movement to justify giving himself emergency powers. He built an army of clones programmed to murder the Jedi on his command. He manipulated us all." The chamber erupts. Senators shout accusations at each other. Some storm out in protest, others weep openly. For years, they have been pieces on a board, moved by a hand they never saw. Now they see it, and the sight is devastating. But Padme presses on. "We cannot undo what has been done. We cannot bring back the billions who have died in a war manufactured for one man's ambition, but we can ensure that justice is served. Sheev Palpatine will stand trial. Not in secret, not behind closed doors, but here, in this chamber, before the entire Republic. The evidence will be presented. The verdict will be rendered. And the galaxy will see that even the most powerful man in existence is not above the law." The trial of Sheev Palpatine begins 3 weeks later. The Senate chamber is transformed into a court. Massive holo projectors display evidence for all to see. Recording droids capture every moment for broadcast across the galaxy. Trillions watch. This is the most important trial in the history of the Republic. The prosecution is led by a team of the Republic's finest legal minds. supported by Jedi archivists who have spent weeks organizing the mountain of evidence recovered from Palpatine's private chambers. The lead prosecutor is a Mon Calamari named Tano Vic, known for his methodical approach and unshakable integrity. The defense is Palpatine himself. He has refused all offers of legal representation, insisting that he will prove his innocence through his own words. Many suspect this is simply arrogance. Others fear it is strategy. Palpatine sits in the defendant's pod, his face still bearing the scars of his battle with Mace Windu. He has chosen to represent himself. His voice, when he speaks, carries the same gentle warmth that fooled the galaxy for decades. My friends, my dear friends, I stand before you not as a criminal, but as a victim of Jedi aggression, a victim of their fear and paranoia. They attacked me without provocation. They murdered 3 of their own in their frenzy, and now they fabricate evidence to justify their treachery. Prosecutor Vic rises calmly. With respect, the defendant's claims of Jedi aggression are contradicted by multiple forms of evidence. I would like to present Exhibit A, security recordings from the Chancellor's office on the night in question. The hollow projectors flicker to life. The chamber watches in stunned silence as Palpatine's lightsaber ignites, as he moves with inhuman speed to strike down Kit Fisto, Aegon Kolar, and Sayesatine. They see his face transform, his features twisting into something monstrous. They hear him cackling as Mace Windu barely survives his assault. The recording ends. The silence that follows is deafening. Palpatine's composure cracks for just a moment. Then he recovers. Doctored footage. The Jedi have many tricks at their disposal. But the evidence is not fabricated, and there is too much of it to deny. Witness after witness takes the stand. Clone commanders describe the chips implanted in their brains, many of them showing the scars from their recent surgeries. Kaminoan scientists confirm that the chips were designed to override free will, presenting technical specifications and manufacturing records. Banking clan officials reveal financial transfers authorized by Palpatine to fund both sides of the war, their testimony backed by authenticated transaction logs. Former separatist leaders, captured in the weeks since the arrest, testify to communications with a hooded figure they knew only as Darth Sidious. Newt Gunray, Viceroy of the Trade Federation, is brought before the court in restraints. His insect-like eyes dart around the chamber, seeking escape and finding none. The Sith Lord promised us profits beyond imagination, he whines. He said the Republic would be brought to its knees and that the Confederacy would rise in its place. We were partners. We were promised power. And you believed him. He was the Chancellor. He controlled both sides. What choice did we have? The testimony continues for days. Each new revelation is more damning than the last. Palpatine's attempts to discredit the witnesses grow increasingly desperate and increasingly transparent. The galaxy watches him unravel. And then Anakin takes the stand. He describes his relationship with Palpatine stretching back to his childhood. The private meetings, the friendly advice, the gradual grooming that he only now recognizes for what it was. He told me I was special, Anakin says. He told me the Jedi did not understand my potential. He told me that only he could help me achieve my destiny. He exploited my fears. He turned my love for my wife into a weapon. He tried to convince me to help him murder Master Windu and escape justice. The Chancellor smiles. Young Skywalker has always had a vivid imagination. Is it any surprise he would fabricate such stories to protect his Jedi masters? But the evidence supports Anakin's testimony. Recordings from Palpatine's private office, logs of their meetings. Even hollow footage recovered from hidden cameras showing Palpatine discussing the dark side with Anakin in explicit terms. By the end of the 3rd week, the outcome is clear to everyone. Everyone except Palpatine, who continues to proclaim his innocence with increasing desperation. The verdict is delivered by Chief Justice Fang Zha. Sheev Palpatine, this court finds you guilty of treason against the Galactic Republic. guilty of conspiracy to commit mass murder, guilty of war crimes, guilty of violations of the Rusan Reformation, guilty of crimes against sentient beings. You are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment in the citadel on Lola Sayu, where you will remain in force-suppressed containment until the end of your natural life. Palpatine's mask finally cracks. His eyes blaze yellow. His face twists with hatred. You fools, you blind, simpering fools. You think these chains can hold me? You think your pathetic justice means anything? I am the dark side. I have planned for 1,000 years. I will not be denied. But his rage means nothing. The Isalamiri surrounding him suppress his power completely. He is just an old man screaming at the void. Guards drag him away. The Senate chamber erupts in applause that does not stop for 10 minutes. The war changes after that. Without Palpatine coordinating the Separatist Council, the Confederacy fractures almost immediately. The leaders who depended on his strategic guidance find themselves adrift. Count Dooku is dead, killed by Anakin during the Battle of Coruscant. General Grievous attempts to rally the remaining droid armies, but he lacks the strategic vision to maintain a coherent campaign. Systems begin defecting back to the Republic. Others sue for peace. The Republic military, now fully coordinated with the Jedi and freed from Palpatine's hidden manipulations, launches a series of devastating offensives. Clone commanders whose chips have been removed fight with renewed purpose, knowing now that they are free soldiers rather than programmed executioners. On Felucia, Aayla Secura leads her forces against a massive droid garrison that has been terrorizing local populations. The battle is fierce, lasting 3 days as Republic forces push through dense fungal forests toward the enemy command center. Commander Bly fights at her side, his tactical genius complementing her force abilities perfectly. "General, we have them surrounded," Bly reports as the third day dawns, "but they have entrenched heavily. A frontal assault would cost us thousands." "Then we will not make a frontal assault." Aayla studies the holographic terrain map. There are cave systems beneath their position. Natural formations, but wide enough for small teams. Infiltration? Precisely. I will lead a strike team through the caves. When we emerge inside their perimeter, we will disable their command systems. That is when you attack. The plan works flawlessly. Aayla and her team slip beneath the droid lines, emerging in the heart of the enemy base. Her lightsaber flashes through battle droids as she carves a path to the central command node. When it falls, the droid army loses coordination. Bly's forces sweep in, and by nightfall, Felucia is liberated. Similar victories accumulate across the galaxy. On Maigito, Ki Adi Mundi finally breaks the stalemate that has claimed thousands of lives, using intelligence recovered from Palpatine's files to exploit a hidden weakness in the droid supply lines. On Kashyyyk, the Wookiee defenders rally behind Yoda's leadership, driving the Separatist forces from their homeworld in a campaign that will be remembered for generations. But the final blow must be struck against Grievous himself. The cyborg general has retreated to Utapau, gathering the remnants of the Separatist fleet for a last stand. Obi-Wan is sent to hunt Grievous down. He finds the cyborg general on Utapau just as before, but this time he does not go alone. Anakin accompanies him. Together, the two of them descend into the sinkhole city where Grievous has made his final stand. The descent is treacherous. Separatist snipers take potshots at their starfighters as they navigate the narrow gaps between rock formations. Anti-aircraft batteries track their movements, filling the air with deadly fire. But Anakin flies with preternatural skill, his force-enhanced reflexes allowing him to thread through the barrage while returning fire with devastating accuracy. They land on a platform near the lower levels of the sinkhole, where intelligence suggests Grievous has established his command center. The local Utapauan population has been enslaved by the droid armies, forced to labor in factories producing weapons and parts. Republic commandos are already in position, ready to liberate the workers once the Jedi neutralize the leadership. "I sense him," Anakin says, his hand moving to his lightsaber. He is close and afraid. Grievous has never been a coward, but he has also never faced us together. There is a first time for everything. They move through the winding tunnels of the Sinkhole City, following the dark pulse of Grievous's presence. Battle droids patrol the corridors, but they fall quickly and quietly to the twin blades of the Jedi. By the time they reach the command center, their path is littered with sparking metal wreckage. The general waits for them in his command center, surrounded by his elite Magna Guards. His collection of stolen lightsabers hangs from his cloak like trophies. 4 of them. 4 Jedi who fell to his blades. He ignites them now, 2 in each hand, the stolen weapons humming with deadly intent. Kenobi. Skywalker. I've been trained in the Jedi arts by Count Dooku himself. I have killed dozens of your kind. You will be merely 2 more. Anakin smirks. Then stop talking and prove it. Grievous splits his arms and ignites 4 lightsabers. He spins toward them in a whirlwind of plasma and metal, his mechanical limbs allowing him to attack from angles no organic being could achieve. The Magna Guards attack from the flanks, their electro staffs crackling with enough power to incapacitate even a Jedi. Obi-Wan moves to intercept the guards while Anakin engages Grievous directly. The young knight's blade flashes through the air, meeting the general's four-armed assault with precision and power. Sparks fly as their weapons clash. Grievous pushes forward, his mechanical body giving him speed and strength beyond any organic being. But Anakin is the chosen one, and he has spent years honing his skills in the crucible of war. He flows around the attacks like water, his movements guided by the Force. He reads Grievous's patterns, anticipates his strikes, and counters with devastating efficiency. The general's whirling assault is impressive, but it is also predictable. Mechanical, lacking the intuition that makes a true master. One arm. Anakin's blade shears through the joint, sending a lightsaber spinning away. Then another. A second limb falls, clattering against the stone floor. Grievous's lightsabers clatter to the ground as Anakin systematically dismembers him. The general roars in frustration, his remaining arms accelerating their assault, but Anakin is already inside his guard. A quick slash takes a third arm. A force push sends Grievous stumbling back against the wall. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan deals with the Magna Guards. His Soresu defense is impenetrable, each movement precise and economical. The guards attack with relentless aggression, their electro-staffs weaving patterns of destruction, but Obi-Wan is a wall they cannot reach. He redirects their attacks, turning their own momentum against them. One guard overextends and finds itself impaled on its partner's staff. Another receives a lightsaber through its central processor. By the time he finishes, Anakin has reduced Grievous to a crawling wreck. The general tries to flee, his single remaining arm dragging his battered body toward an escape hatch. But there is nowhere to go. Obi-Wan steps in front of him, lightsaber raised, blocking his path. This is the end, Grievous. The cyborg looks up at him with those terrible yellow eyes. For a moment, something almost like regret flickers in their depths. But only for a moment. I'm a warrior. I deserve a warrior's death. Then consider this a mercy. Obi-Wan's blade flashes. The cyborg general collapses, his mechanical systems sparking and dying. The terror of 1,000 battlefields is finally silenced. The war is effectively over. In the weeks that follow, the remaining separatist holdouts surrender or are defeated. The Commerce Guild, the Trade Federation, the Techno Union. All of them capitulate when their leadership is captured and the extent of Palpatine's manipulation is revealed. Many of them were victims too, in their own way. Pawns moved by a Sith Lord's invisible hand. But ending a war is easier than healing the wounds it leaves behind. The galaxy is shattered. Entire worlds lie in ruins. Hundreds of billions are dead. Economies are devastated. Governments have collapsed. The republic that emerges from the Clone Wars is not the republic that entered it. It is weaker, more fragile, more uncertain, but it is free. Padme leads the effort to rebuild. She coordinates relief efforts to devastated worlds. She negotiates treaties with former separatist systems. She pushes through legislation to dismantle the emergency powers that Palpatine accumulated. The Senate is reformed. The Chancellor's position is restructured with strict term limits and oversight. Never again will one man hold so much power unchecked. But perhaps her greatest achievement is personal rather than political. She gives birth to twins in the Jedi Temple's medical wing, not in pain and fear and death as Anakin's visions showed, but in light and love and hope. The best healers in the Order attend her. The best doctors in the galaxy monitor her condition. And when complications arise, as they do, they are met with skill and calm and the focused power of the light side. The labor is difficult. Padme is small and the twins are large. There are moments when her vital signs dip dangerously, when the medical team exchanges worried glances over their instruments. Anakin paces outside the birthing room, his connection to the Force allowing him to feel every spike of pain, every moment of struggle. She is strong, Obi-Wan tells him, having refused to leave his friend's side. She has survived assassinations, political intrigue, and a war. She will survive this. But I felt her die. In my visions, I felt her slip away. Visions are not destiny. They are possibilities, and you have already changed the path that led to that possibility. Trust the healers. Trust Padme. Trust the Force. Inside the birthing room, Master Vokara Che leads the healing effort. She is the finest Jedi healer of her generation, her abilities in the Force supplemented by decades of medical training. When Padme's blood pressure spikes dangerously, she reaches out with the Force and calms the Senator's body. When one of the twins shifts into a dangerous position, she guides it with invisible hands to a safer orientation. "Push, Senator. You are almost there," Padme screams. She has never felt pain like this. It threatens to overwhelm her, to drag her down into darkness. But she thinks of Anakin, of the future they have fought for, of the children who are struggling to enter the world. She pushes. Luke Skywalker enters the world screaming, his tiny fists waving in protest at the indignity of birth. He is cleaned and wrapped and placed in the arms of a medical droid while the team focuses on his sister. Leia comes more easily, as if her brother has paved the way. She does not scream. She opens her eyes and looks around with a calm awareness that startles the medical team. "Remarkable," Vokara Che murmurs. "I have never seen a newborn so alert." Padme holds out her arms. "Give them to me. Please." Luke and Leia Skywalker are placed in their mother's arms for the first time. She looks down at them through tears of exhaustion and joy. They are perfect. They are alive. They are here. The door opens. Anakin rushes in, his face pale with worry. But when he sees his wife, when he sees the bundles in her arms, he stops. "Twins," Padme whispers. "A boy and a girl." Anakin cannot speak. He can only hold his children and weep. All the fear, all the doubt, all the darkness that whispered he would lose everything. It fades away, replaced by a love so powerful, it rewrites the very fabric of his soul. "You see?" Obi-Wan says, standing beside him. "The vision was not destiny. It was a warning, one you were wise enough to heed." Anakin looks at his old master, his eyes still streaming. "How can I ever thank you?" "All of you, by being the father these children deserve, by being the husband Padme deserves, by honoring the second chance you have been given. I will. I swear it." He kisses Padme's forehead, then each of the twins in turn. The future that Palpatine promised him through the dark side, the future of power and domination and endless suffering, is gone. In its place is something far more precious, something the Sith could never understand. A family, a future, a hope. The Jedi Order begins its own process of reformation. The near extinction of the Jedi is a wake-up call that cannot be ignored. For generations, the Order has grown rigid, insular, disconnected from the galaxy it swore to protect. They became generals and warriors when they were meant to be peacekeepers. They became servants of the Senate when they were meant to be servants of the Force. Yoda leads the discussion, and his words surprise many. Failed we have. Admit this we must. Arrogant we became, certain of our righteousness. But blind we were, blind to Sidious, blind to Anakin's struggles, blind to the darkness growing in our own hearts. Time for change it is. The reforms are extensive. The rule against attachment is revisited. Not abandoned entirely, but reinterpreted. Jedi are permitted to form bonds, to love, to marry, if they can do so without letting those bonds cloud their judgment. The focus shifts from prohibition to balance, from suppression to understanding. The relationship between the Order and the Republic is restructured as well. The Jedi will no longer serve as the Senate's enforcers. They will no longer command armies. They will return to their original purpose. Peacekeepers, mediators, guardians of balance in the Force. They will go where they are needed, not where they are ordered, and they will reconnect with the common people of the galaxy. Jedi are sent not to battlefields, but to disaster zones, to impoverished worlds, to places where hope is scarce and help is scarcer. They build, they heal, they teach, they remember what it means to be servants of the light. Anakin's position in this new order is unique. He's not quite a traditional Jedi. His wife is a senator. His children are being raised in a home outside the temple. He does not follow the old rules because the old rules nearly destroyed him. But he is still the chosen one, still one of the most powerful Force users in the galaxy. And his perspective, born of suffering and temptation and survival, is invaluable. He becomes an advocate for the struggling and the lost, for the Padawans who feel overwhelmed by expectations, for the knights who struggle with attachment or emotion, for anyone who walks the line between light and dark. I know what it feels like to stand on the edge, he tells them. I know what it feels like to have the darkness whispering in your ear, and I know that the answer is not to pretend those feelings do not exist. The answer is to face them, to understand them, to acknowledge that you are afraid or angry or grieving, and to choose the light anyway. Years pass. The galaxy heals slowly. New institutions replace the broken ones. New leaders emerge to guide the recovery. The clone army is decommissioned, but the clones themselves are not abandoned. They are offered citizenship, education, land. Many of them struggle to adapt to a life without war. Some never do. But they are given the chance, which is more than Palpatine ever intended for them. Padme serves 3 terms as senator before retiring from politics. She has done her part. Now it is time for others to carry the torch. She spends her days with her husband and children on Naboo, watching them grow, teaching them about democracy and justice and the responsibilities that come with power. Luke and Leia grow up knowing both of their parents, knowing their father's history, including the darkness he nearly embraced. They are not hidden from the truth. They are taught that everyone carries light and shadow within them, that the choice between them is never made once and for all, but every day, in every moment. Luke shows a strong connection to the Force from an early age. He trains with the Jedi, but his path is his own. He is not bound by the rigid rules that nearly destroyed his father's generation. He learns balance, compassion, the strength that comes from understanding rather than suppression. Leia chooses a different path. Her gifts manifest more subtly, and she finds her calling in politics rather than the Force. She is her mother's daughter in this way, with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue. By the time she reaches adulthood, she's already making waves in the Senate, already fighting for the causes she believes in. Anakin watches them both with pride and fear. Pride in who they are becoming, Fear that the darkness might reach for them as it reached for him. But Obi-Wan, now an old man but still his closest friend, reminds him that fear is not the enemy. "You have taught them well," Obi-Wan says. "Both of them know who they are. They know what the darkness offers and why it must be refused. They will face temptation in their lives, as all people do, but they are ready." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I have watched you, Anakin. I have watched you face your demons and defeat them every day for 20 years. If you can do it, so can they." But Anakin's journey is not quite finished. 20 years after Palpatine's arrest, the old Sith Lord still lives in his cell on Lola Sayu. The Asalamiri keep him cut off from the Force. The isolation keeps him cut off from everything else. He is a husk of the man he was, ancient and withered and consumed by hatred that has nowhere to go. The Citadel is the most secure prison in the galaxy. It was built during the Old Republic to hold the most dangerous criminals the galaxy had ever produced. Now it holds only one prisoner, but that prisoner is worth the entire facility's existence. Anakin arrives on a Republic cruiser, cleared through multiple levels of security. The warden meets him personally, a grizzled Zabrak who has spent 2 decades watching over the galaxy's greatest monster. "He asks for you sometimes," the warden says as they walk through endless corridors of Durasteel and force fields. "In his lucid moments, he says your name like a curse. I imagine he does. You do not have to see him, you know. No one would blame you for refusing. I know. But I need to do this. For myself. For closure." The cell is at the center of the facility, surrounded by layer after layer of protection. The Asalamiri create a force dead zone that extends for dozens of meters in every direction. Anakin feels the absence keenly, a void where the force should be. It is deeply unsettling, but he presses forward. Anakin visits him one last time. The cell is as cold and sterile as it was 2 decades ago. Palpatine sits in the corner, his robes tattered and stained, his body bent with age. He looks like a man who has lived 100 years in 20. The dark side sustained him once, but without it, he is just flesh and bone and hatred. His yellow eyes are the only part of him that retains any vitality. When he sees Anakin, something like recognition flickers in those eyes. And something else. Hunger. "My boy, you came back. I am not your boy. I never was." Palpatine chuckles, a dry and rattling sound that dissolves into a cough. When he recovers, his smile is a death's head grimace. "You were always so certain, so righteous. Tell me, young Skywalker, are you happy? Has your precious light given you everything I promised the darkness could provide?" Anakin considers the question carefully. He looks at this ruined creature, this thing that was once the most powerful being in the galaxy, and he feels nothing, not anger, not pity, just a kind of sad wonder that he ever feared this man, that he ever believed the lies. "My wife is alive. She lived to see our children grow. She served the Republic with honor and retired in peace. She sleeps beside me every night, and every morning I wake up grateful for another day with her. My children are healthy. Luke is a Jedi Master, respected throughout the galaxy. Leia is a leader, perhaps the greatest of her generation. They have families of their own, grandchildren who carry my name. The galaxy is at peace, the Jedi endure, and you rot in this cell, forgotten and powerless. Yes, I am happy." Palpatine's smile fades. The hunger in his eyes turns to something darker. Envy, perhaps, or simply incomprehension. The light cannot give you power. The light cannot give you control. You could have ruled the galaxy, Skywalker. You could have been a god. Instead, you are a glorified monk, growing old while your strength fades, watching death approach with nothing to show for your life but sentiment and weakness. I could have been a monster. Anakin's voice is steady. I could have destroyed everything I loved in pursuit of saving it. I could have spent my life in chains, serving a master who saw me as nothing but a tool. Instead, I am a father, a husband, a teacher, a friend. I know which I prefer." He turns to leave, but Palpatine calls after him. His voice is stronger now, filled with a desperate intensity. "It is not over, Skywalker. The darkness never dies. It waits, it watches, it is patient. Someday it will return, stronger than before. And when it does, will your precious children be ready? Will your grandchildren? Will any of them be able to stand against what is coming?" Anakin pauses at the door. He looks back at the broken creature that was once the most powerful being in the galaxy. Once, this man's words would have terrified him. Once, he would have lain awake at night, haunted by the possibility that Palpatine was right. But not anymore. They will be. Because I will teach them what you never understood. The darkness is not defeated by power. It is not defeated by control or domination or fear. It is defeated by love, by connection, by choosing every day to be better than the shadows within us. That is what you could never comprehend. That is why you lost, not because you were weak, but because you were alone. And you chose to be alone, and that choice doomed you. Palpatine stares at him. For just a moment, something that might be doubt flickers in those yellow eyes. But then it is gone, replaced by the familiar hatred. Get out. Get out and never return. Anakin nods. Goodbye, Darth Sidious. I hope you find peace someday. I suspect you will not, but I hope it anyway. He leaves Palpatine to his solitude. He does not look back. Years continue to pass. The Republic thrives. The Jedi Order grows stronger, guided by the lessons of its near destruction. New challenges arise, as they always do, but they are met with wisdom and courage and the collaborative strength of a galaxy united. Anakin Skywalker grows old. His hair turns gray, his joints ache, his mechanical arm requires more maintenance than it once did, but his spirit remains strong. He trains the next generation of Jedi, passing on everything he has learned about balance and struggle and the endless choice between light and dark. Obi-Wan passes into the Force peacefully, surrounded by those who love him. Yoda follows not long after, having lived far beyond what anyone thought possible. The old guard fades away, but the new generation rises to take their place. Luke becomes a Jedi Master, one of the finest of his era. He embodies the new philosophy of the Order: compassion without attachment, strength without aggression, wisdom without arrogance. He trains students who will carry the light forward for generations. Leia becomes Chancellor, not through manipulation or fear, but through the genuine respect of her colleagues and the will of the people. She rules wisely and well, then steps down when her term ends because she remembers what her mother taught her about the dangers of clinging to power. And when Anakin Skywalker finally closes his eyes for the last time, he does so at peace. He lies in his bed on Naboo, in the lake house where he married Padme so many years before. The room is filled with flowers from the garden, their scent mingling with the breeze from the open window. Outside, the lake glitters under the afternoon sun, and the mountains rise in the distance, eternal and unchanging. Padme holds his hand. Her own hair is white now, her face lined with decades of love and laughter. But her grip is still strong, and her eyes still hold the fire that first drew him to her on this very world, so long ago. "I am so tired, love," he whispers, "but it is a good tired. Then rest." She kisses his forehead. "I will be here. I will always be here." Luke and Leia stand nearby, their own children gathered around them, 4 generations of Skywalkers, together at the end. There are tears, but there is also peace. They know this is not a tragedy. This is the natural conclusion of a life well lived. "Father," Luke says, "is there anything you need? Anything we can do?" Anakin manages a smile. "You have already done it. All of you. You have given me everything I ever wanted. Everything I was afraid I would never have." Leia takes his other hand. "We love you, Father. We always have. I know, and I love you more than I ever found words to say. You made me want to be better. You made me become better. That is the greatest gift anyone has ever given me. His breathing slows. The force rises up around him, warm and welcoming. He can feel the boundary between worlds growing thin. On the other side, familiar presences wait for him. The force welcomes him, not as a slave to the dark side, but as the chosen one who fulfilled his destiny. He brought balance not through destruction, but through redemption. He defeated the Sith not with anger, but with love. In the end, that makes all the difference. As his consciousness dissolves into the cosmic energy of the Force, he feels Obi-Wan's presence, and Yoda's, and countless others who walked the path before him. They are there to welcome him home. "Well done," Obi-Wan says. "I always knew you had it in you." Anakin smiles. "It took me a while to figure that out. The important thing is that you did, that you chose the light when it would have been so easy to choose darkness, that you kept choosing it every day for the rest of your life." Together, they fade into the light. The galaxy spins on. The darkness waits, as it always does. But the light waits too, and as long as there are those willing to choose it, the light will never truly fade. The legacy of that moment in Palpatine's office echoes through the ages. A single decision by Mace Windu changed everything. He did not hesitate. He did not give the darkness room to maneuver. He acted, and the galaxy was saved. But the true hero of this story is not Mace Windu. It is not Yoda, or Obi-Wan, or Padme, or even Palpatine, the architect of all this suffering who was ultimately undone by his own arrogance. The true hero is Anakin Skywalker, because when he stood in that office, his lightsaber ready to strike down the Jedi Master who threatened his last hope of saving Padme, he hesitated. For just a moment, just long enough for Mace to act. That hesitation was not weakness, it was strength. It was the light within him refusing to be extinguished. It was the part of Anakin that remembered who he was supposed to be, even when the rest of him was ready to fall. And in the years that followed, that light grew. It burned away the shadows Palpatine had planted in his soul. It illuminated the path forward for the Jedi, for the Republic, for his own family. The Chosen One did not bring balance through fire and blood. He brought it through the hardest journey of all, the journey from darkness to light, from fear to love, from who he was to who he chose to become. And the galaxy was better for it. In temples across 1,000 worlds, Jedi tell his story, not as a cautionary tale, but as a message of hope. They speak of the boy from Tatooine who became the most powerful Jedi of his age, who loved too deeply and feared too much, who stood on the brink of the abyss and chose to step back. They speak of Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, who saved the galaxy not by becoming a monster, but by refusing to. And in those stories, the children of the galaxy learn the most important lesson of all, that the darkness is never invincible, that no matter how far you fall, redemption is always possible, that the light lives in everyone, waiting for the moment when they choose to let it shine. This is the legacy of the Hand of Windu. This is the gift of a galaxy saved. But now, let us examine more closely how certain events unfolded in this timeline, for the details reveal depths that deserve exploration. When Padme Amidala first learned the full truth about Palpatine, her reaction was not simply political. It was personal. She had trusted this man. She had worked with him for years. She had relied on his counsel and believed in his leadership. To discover that he was not merely corrupt, but actively evil, shook her to her core. She remembered conversations with him in his office, innocent conversations, she had thought, about policy, about the war, about Anakin. Now those memories took on a sinister cast. Had he been manipulating her all along? Had every piece of advice, every word of encouragement been calculated to serve his dark purposes? The answer, she came to realize, was yes. Palpatine never did anything without purpose. Every relationship he cultivated was a tool to be used. She had been valuable to him as a senator, as a former queen, as the wife of the chosen one. But she had never been a person to him. None of them had. This realization hardened her resolve. When the trial began, she threw herself into the prosecution's effort with tireless determination. She gathered evidence, she coordinated witnesses, she rehearsed arguments. She would not let him escape justice through rhetoric or manipulation. Not again. And when the verdict was delivered, when Palpatine was finally dragged away in chains, she felt something she had not expected. Not triumph, not satisfaction, relief, pure, overwhelming relief. The monster was contained. Her family was safe. The galaxy could begin to heal. She wept then, in her private chamber, where no one could see. She wept for the years of deception, for the billions who had died in a manufactured war, for the innocence she had lost, for the world that might have been if someone had seen through Palpatine sooner. Anakin found her there. He held her without speaking. He understood. He had wept too in his own time, in his own way. "We survived," she whispered. "We did. I was so scared. For so long, I thought I would lose you to him. You almost did, but I did not." She pulled back to look at him. Her eyes were red but fierce. "And now we have the rest of our lives to make it mean something, to build the galaxy we always talked about, to raise our children in peace." He kissed her forehead. "Then we should probably get started. Those children will not raise themselves." She laughed, despite everything. The sound surprised her. She had not laughed in months, but from that moment on, she laughed often, because she had her husband, her children, her future. And no Sith Lord could take that away from her. The clones posed a particular challenge in the aftermath of Palpatine's arrest. 2 million soldiers, bred for war, programmed for obedience. What place did they have in a galaxy at peace? The Republic had created them as tools. Palpatine had designed them as weapons of genocide, but they were also people, with thoughts and feelings and hopes of their own. The inhibitor chip removal was just the first step. When the chips were gone, many clones experienced a kind of awakening. They remembered thoughts they had been prevented from thinking. They felt emotions they had been forced to suppress. For some, this was liberating. For others, it was terrifying. A small number experienced psychological breaks. The trauma of suddenly regaining full autonomy after years of subtle mental imprisonment was too much. The Jedi healers did what they could, but some scars ran too deep. But most of the clones adapted. They had always been more than their programming, even with the chips in place. They had formed friendships, developed personalities, made choices within the narrow boundaries allowed to them. Now those boundaries were gone, and they could finally discover who they truly were. Captain Rex was among the first to speak publicly about the experience. "For years I had this feeling," he said. "Like there was something wrong. Something in my head that did not belong there. I thought I was defective. Turns out I was the most sane one of all. The chip was trying to make me something I was not, and now that it is gone, I finally feel free." His words resonated across the galaxy. Other clones came forward with their own stories. The public began to see them not as disposable soldiers, but as victims of the same Sith plot that had threatened them all. The Rehabilitation Act, sponsored by Senator Amidala, passed the Senate with overwhelming support. It granted citizenship to all clones who wanted it. It provided education, housing, and employment assistance. It acknowledged the debt the Republic owed to those who had fought its wars without ever being given a choice. Not all clones took advantage of the offer. Some remained in the military, the only life they had ever known. Others disappeared into the Outer Rim, seeking to escape the galaxy that had used them. But many chose to build new lives. They became farmers, mechanics, doctors, teachers. They married and had children of their own. They became part of the society they had once been designed to serve without ever belonging to. Rex himself became an advocate for clone rights. He testified before the Senate. He gave interviews to the HoloNet. He visited rehabilitation centers across the core worlds, offering encouragement and counsel to his brothers. "We were made for war," he told them. "But we do not have to stay that way. We can choose who we want to be. That is what freedom means." His words became a rallying cry for an entire generation of clones finding their way in a galaxy at peace. The former separatist worlds presented their own challenges. Many of them had joined the Confederacy not out of evil or greed, but out of genuine grievances with the Republic. They had felt ignored by the core worlds. They had been exploited by Republic corporations. They had seen their concerns dismissed by a Senate dominated by powerful interests. Palpatine had used those grievances to drive them into rebellion. But the grievances themselves were real, and if the Republic wanted to truly reunify the galaxy, it would have to address them. This was Padmé's greatest project, the Galactic Reconciliation Initiative. The idea was simple but ambitious. Instead of treating the former separatist worlds as conquered territories, the Republic would treat them as partners. Their concerns would be heard, their needs would be addressed, their representatives would be given real power in the restructured Senate. The negotiations took years. Many core world senators resisted the idea of giving former enemies equal standing. Many former separatists were suspicious of any offer from a government that had been at war with them for years. Trust had to be rebuilt from nothing. But Padmé was patient. She traveled to dozens of worlds, meeting with local leaders, listening to their stories, acknowledging the mistakes of the past. She did not make promises she could not keep. She did not pretend that everything would be easy, but she offered something that had been sorely lacking in the Republic's dealings with the outer systems: respect. Slowly, painfully, the galaxy came together. Trade agreements were signed. Reconstruction funds were distributed. Former enemies learned to work alongside each other. The scars of war would never fully heal, but they began to fade. A decade after the end of the Clone Wars, the last of the former separatist worlds formally rejoined the Republic. The ceremony was held on Raxus, the former capital of the Confederacy. Padmé gave the keynote address. "We have come a long way," she said. "From war to peace, from division to unity, from fear to hope. The road has been hard. We have all lost things we can never recover, but we have also found something precious. We have found each other. We have learned that we are stronger together than we ever were apart, and we have proven that even the deepest wounds can heal if we have the courage to let them." The applause that followed echoed across the galaxy. The Jedi Order's reformation was perhaps the most significant long-term consequence of Palpatine's arrest. For 1,000 years, the Order had operated according to a strict interpretation of the Jedi Code. Attachment was forbidden. Emotion was suppressed. The will of the Council was absolute. These rules had served a purpose once, during the dark times when the Sith were everywhere and the temptation to fall was constant. But the Sith had been gone for a millennium, and in their absence, the rules designed to protect against them had calcified into dogma. The Jedi had become rigid, isolated, disconnected from the very force they served. Palpatine's infiltration exposed the rot at the heart of the Order. How had a Sith Lord operated under their noses for decades? How had they failed to sense the darkness in the heart of the Republic? The answer was uncomfortable but undeniable. They had become so focused on following their rules that they had forgotten how to listen to the Force itself. Yoda led the reform effort, though he was honest about his own failures. 800 years I've taught, he said to the assembled council. Thousands of Jedi I've trained, but taught them wrong. I did. Taught them to fear emotion. Taught them to suppress attachment. Taught them that the code was more important than the Force. Wrong I was. The changes came gradually. The rule against attachment was the first to be revised. Under the new interpretation, Jedi were permitted to form bonds with others, including romantic bonds. What mattered was not whether you loved, but how you loved. Possessive attachment, the kind that demanded control and could not accept loss, was still recognized as a path to the dark side. But selfless love, the kind that wanted only the best for another being regardless of personal cost, was not merely permitted, but encouraged. Many older Jedi struggled with this change. They had spent their entire lives suppressing their feelings, and the sudden permission to feel was disorienting. Some refused to accept the new doctrine and left the order entirely. Others embraced it too eagerly and had to learn through painful experience where the line between selfless and possessive love actually lay. But for most Jedi, especially the younger ones, the change was liberating. They no longer had to pretend that they did not care about their fellow beings. They no longer had to suppress the very emotions that made them human, or whatever species they happened to be. They could be whole for the first time in their lives. The relationship between the Order and the Republic was also restructured. For too long, the Jedi had allowed themselves to become tools of the Senate. They had commanded armies. They had enforced the will of politicians. They had become warriors when they were meant to be peacekeepers. Under the new structure, the Jedi would no longer take orders from the government. They would offer their services as mediators, advisors, and guardians of the peace. But they would decide for themselves where those services were needed. They answered to the Force, not to the Senate. This change was controversial. Many senators viewed it as the Jedi placing themselves above the law. There were accusations of arrogance, of power-grabbing, of creating a state within a state. But the Jedi were patient. They demonstrated through their actions that their only interest was in serving the galaxy, not controlling it. They went where they were needed, whether or not it was politically convenient. They helped worlds that the Senate had forgotten. They mediated disputes that the government had been unable to resolve. Over time, the suspicion faded. The galaxy came to see the Jedi as they had been meant to be seen, as guardians of peace and justice, servants of the Force, champions of those who had no other champions. And at the center of this reformation was Anakin Skywalker. He did not lead the reform effort. He did not sit on the council or make pronouncements about policy. But he embodied what the new order was supposed to represent. A Jedi who loved without possession. A warrior who fought without anger. A man who had stood on the edge of darkness and chosen the light. Young Jedi sought him out, wanting to learn from his experience. He told them his story without shame or evasion. He described the temptation he had felt, the fear, the desperation, the moment when he had been ready to throw everything away for the false promise of power. And he told them what had saved him. It was not strength, he said. It was not willpower. It was connection. Obi-Wan believed in me when I did not believe in myself. Padme loved me even knowing what I was capable of. The light within me responded to the light within them. That is what the darkness can never understand. It thinks power comes from isolation, from control, from domination. But true power comes from being part of something greater than yourself, from loving and being loved in return. These words became a foundation of the new Jedi philosophy. They were taught to every Padawan, repeated in every training session. They were inscribed on the walls of the temple, a constant reminder of what the Order now stood for. Love is not the enemy. Fear is not the enemy. Even anger is not the enemy. The enemy is the belief that you are alone, that no one understands, that the only way to be safe is to control everything and everyone around you. That is the lie the dark side tells. And it is a lie. You are not alone. You are never alone. The Force connects all living things, and through that connection, anything is possible. Luke Skywalker heard these words from his father's lips 1,000 times. He understood them intellectually from an early age. But it was not until he faced his own darkness that he truly understood what they meant. It happened during his training, when he was 17 years old. The trial was a tradition in the Reformed Order, a test of each Padawan's readiness to face their inner shadows. Unlike the Old Order, which sometimes used artificial constructs or holocron simulations, the Reformed Jedi believed in a more direct approach. Each Padawan would enter the Chamber of Trials alone, where the Force itself would create the vision they needed to face. Luke entered the chamber confident in his abilities. He was strong in the Force, perhaps the strongest of his generation. He was skilled with a lightsaber, having trained with his father since childhood. He was knowledgeable in the ways of the Jedi, having grown up surrounded by masters and knights. What could this trial show him that he did not already know? The chamber was dark and cold. Stone walls pressed in around him, covered in ancient inscriptions that seemed to writhe in the flickering torchlight. Luke reached out with the Force, trying to sense what lay ahead, but the chamber seemed to absorb his probe. Whatever waited for him here, he would face it without forewarning. He walked forward. The darkness thickened, and then the vision began. The answer was everything. In the vision that followed, Luke saw what might have been. He saw a galaxy where his father had fallen to the dark side, where his mother had died giving birth to him and his sister. He saw himself raised on Tatooine by moisture farmers, never knowing his true heritage, never understanding why he felt so different from everyone around him. He saw the Jedi Order destroyed. He saw the temple burning, its halls filled with the bodies of younglings. He saw his father, masked and mechanical, striding through the carnage with a crimson blade. He saw himself on a frozen planet, facing that monster. He felt the searing pain as the red blade severed his hand. He heard the terrible voice booming through the carbon-freezing chamber. "I am your father." The vision shifted. He stood in the Emperor's throne room, his father dying at his feet. He felt the dark side calling to him, promising power beyond imagination. He felt the temptation to take his father's place, to complete the transformation that had begun on that frozen world. And he felt the pull, the seductive whisper of power, the promise that he could control everything, prevent any tragedy, protect everyone he loved, if only he would embrace the darkness. The Vision Emperor smiled at him, yellow eyes gleaming. "Good, good. I can feel your anger. Strike me down, and your journey toward the dark side will be complete." Luke raised his lightsaber. In this moment, in this vision, everything he loved hung in the balance. His sister was being tortured below. His friends were dying in a battle they could not win. His father lay broken at his feet. One strike. That was all it would take. For a moment, just a moment, he considered it. Then he remembered his father's words. He remembered his mother's love. He remembered the life he had been given, the family he had grown up with, the joy he had experienced. He remembered that the darkness promised control, but delivered only slavery. He threw his lightsaber away. "I am a Jedi," he said to the Emperor, "like my father before me," and he let it go. The vision faded. Luke emerged from the chamber, shaking, his face streaked with tears. His father was waiting for him, having sensed the intensity of the trial through their bond. "I saw what you could have been," Luke said. His voice trembled. Anakin nodded slowly. His eyes were sad but understanding. "So did I." "Once. How did you resist?" "I did not." Anakin's smile was sad. "Not the first time, or the second. I fell 1,000 times before I finally learned to stand. The trial is not about being perfect. It is about getting up again after you fall. But I wanted it. For a moment, I wanted the power. I wanted to be the one in control. Of course you did. You are human. We all want control, especially when we are afraid of losing what we love. The question is not whether you feel the temptation. The question is what you do with it." Luke was silent for a long moment. Then, "I understand now." Why you told us so many stories about your past. Why you never hid what you almost became. You wanted us to know that the darkness is real, that it can happen to anyone, that the only way to defeat it is to face it honestly. Anakin placed a hand on his son's shoulder. You are wiser than I was at your age. Maybe wiser than I am now. I had a good teacher. You had 2 good parents. That is more than I ever had. They walked out of the temple together into the Coruscant sunset. Above them, the sky blazed with colors that seemed impossible. Orange and purple and gold, painted across the clouds like a promise. Is it ever going to be this peaceful again? Luke asked. Probably not. The galaxy is always changing. New threats will emerge. New challenges will arise. But that is not something to fear. That is just life. The Force is not about preventing change. It is about flowing with it, accepting what comes, finding balance in the midst of chaos. And if the darkness returns, then we will face it, together. That is what family is for. Leia found her own path, different from her brother's, but no less significant. She had the Force, she knew. She could feel it sometimes, guiding her instincts, sharpening her perceptions. But she had never felt drawn to the life of a Jedi. Her calling lay elsewhere. From childhood, she had been fascinated by politics. She remembered sitting in the Senate gallery with her mother, watching debates, learning the intricacies of governance. She remembered asking questions that surprised adults with their insight. She remembered feeling even then that this was where she belonged. Her mother encouraged her interest. Padme knew better than anyone the power of politics to shape the galaxy for good or ill. She wanted her daughter to have the tools to make a difference, but she also warned her. Power is seductive, Leia. It whispers that you are special, that you know better than others, that the rules are for lesser people, that you can do anything as long as your intentions are good. Those whispers are lies. No one is above the law. No one has all the answers. The moment you start believing your own righteousness is the moment you start becoming what you set out to fight. Leia took these words to heart. She entered politics at 21, becoming the youngest senator in the history of the Republic. She rose quickly, her intelligence and determination earning respect even from those who disagreed with her. She fought for the causes she believed in. Equal representation for outer rim worlds, rights for non-human species, transparency in government operations. And when she was 45 years old, she was elected Chancellor. The inauguration was held in the Senate Rotunda, the same chamber where Palpatine had once held court. Leia stood where he had stood, wearing the robes of office that he had worn. But she was nothing like him. "I do not seek this power," she said in her inaugural address. "I did not crave it or scheme for it. I accepted it because you asked me to, because you believed I could serve the Republic faithfully. And I will, but I want to be clear about something from the start. This office belongs to you, not to me. I am your servant, not your master. And when my time here is done, I will leave willingly, because that is what democracy requires. No one person should hold power forever. That is the lesson my generation learned at terrible cost. I will not forget it, and I will not let you forget it either." Her administration was marked by competence, integrity, and an absolute refusal to compromise on democratic principles. She expanded the rights of citizens. She strengthened the institutions that protected the Republic from tyranny. She built alliances with former enemies and held former friends accountable when they strayed from their ideals. And when her term ended, she stepped down. There were calls for her to stay. Her approval ratings were high. The Republic was thriving. Many believed she should continue to lead. But she remembered her mother's warning. She remembered Palpatine. She remembered what happened when leaders believed they were indispensable. "The Republic does not need me," she said. "It needs good institutions. It needs engaged citizens. It needs leaders who know when to leave. I have done what I could. Now it is time for someone else to do what they can. That is how democracy works." She returned to private life without regret. She spent her later years writing, teaching, and watching her own children find their paths. She had given the galaxy everything she had. It was enough. The final years of Anakin Skywalker were quiet ones. He stepped back from active teaching when he reached 70, his body no longer capable of the physical demands of Jedi training. But his mind remained sharp, and his wisdom was sought by masters and Padawans alike. He spent most of his time on Naboo in the lake house where he had married Padme so many years before. The house had grown over the decades, expanded to accommodate children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. There was always someone visiting, always laughter echoing through the halls. Padme remained by his side until the end. They had been married for 50 years when she passed away peacefully in her sleep. Anakin felt her go through the Force, a gentle fading like a candle burning down to nothing. There was no pain, no fear, only love, stretching across the boundary of death. He grieved, of course. For months he was lost in sorrow, but the grief was not the all-consuming darkness he had once feared. It was clean, natural, the price of having loved so deeply. "She is not gone," Obi-Wan's voice whispered to him one night. "None of us are ever truly gone." "I know," Anakin replied. "But I miss her." "Of course you do. That is what love is." He lived for another 5 years after Padme's death, not because he feared dying, but because he still had work to do. He wanted to see Luke achieve the rank of Grand Master. He wanted to see Leia complete her term as Chancellor. He wanted to hold his great-grandchildren and tell them stories of the old days. When the time finally came, he was ready. He lay in his bed, surrounded by family, and looked up at the faces he loved. Luke and Leia, gray-haired now, but still his children, their children's children, a dynasty of light born from the ashes of what might have been. "I am proud of you," he said. "All of you. Everything I went through, everything I survived. It was worth it because it led to this moment. To you." "We love you, Father," Leia said. "We always have." "I know, and I love you more than I ever found words to say." He closed his eyes. The Force rose up around him, warm and welcoming. He felt Padme waiting for him, and Obi-Wan, and Yoda, and Qui-Gon, the master who had believed in him when no one else did, and countless others, a great communion of light stretching back through all the ages of the Jedi. He let go, and in that letting go, he found what he had been seeking all along. Peace. The galaxy mourned Anakin Skywalker as it had mourned few others. The news spread across the HoloNet within hours. From the core worlds to the outer rim, beings of every species paused to reflect on the passing of a legend. He had been many things to many people. A war hero, a Jedi master, a teacher, a politician's husband, a father. But to all of them, he was a symbol of hope, proof that even the darkest path could be turned aside. Messages of condolence flooded in from every corner of the galaxy. Heads of state expressed their sorrow. Jedi temples held vigils. On worlds he had helped liberate during the Clone Wars, statues were draped in black. He was remembered not as the chosen one, though he was that, not as the hero with no fear, though he had earned that title too. He was remembered as a man who had faced the deepest darkness within himself and emerged into the light. A man who had loved fiercely and learned to love wisely. A man who had proven that redemption was possible for anyone willing to choose it. His funeral was held on Naboo, where his journey had truly begun. The lake country was crowded with visitors, more than the small region had ever seen. They came from across the galaxy, dignitaries and commoners, Jedi and civilians, friends and strangers united in grief. The ceremony was held at sunset, the sky blazing with the same colors that had greeted Anakin and Padme on their wedding day so many decades before. Leaders from across the galaxy attended. The current chancellor gave a eulogy praising his contributions to democracy. Jedi Masters spoke of his influence on the Order. Former clone commanders, gray-haired now but still standing at attention, described the battles they had fought together. But the most moving tributes came from ordinary citizens. A farmer from Rhodia, whose village Anakin had saved during the war. A healer from Alderaan, who had trained under Jedi he taught. A child from the Outer Rim who knew him only through stories, but who had found hope in those stories during dark times. And when the ceremony was over, his body was given to the flames in the traditional manner of the Jedi. The pyre blazed against the darkening sky, its light reflected in the waters of the lake. The smoke rose into the Naboo sky and scattered on the wind, carrying him to every corner of the galaxy he had saved. Luke spoke the final words. My father was not perfect. He made mistakes. He had regrets, but he never stopped trying to be better. He never stopped believing that the light was worth fighting for. And he taught us, all of us, that it is never too late to change, that no matter how far you have fallen, you can always choose to rise. That is his legacy. That is what we carry forward. And as long as we remember that, as long as we keep choosing the light, he will never truly be gone. The gathered mourners repeated the ancient benediction. There is no death. There is the Force. And somewhere, beyond the veil of mortality, Anakin Skywalker smiled. He had done it. He had fulfilled his destiny, and the galaxy was better for it. In the centuries that followed, his story was told and retold across 1,000 worlds. It became legend, then myth, then something approaching sacred truth. But unlike many such stories, it was never simplified. The tellers always remembered to include the darkness, the temptation, the moment when everything hung in the balance. Because that was the point. That was what made the story matter. Anyone could be a hero if they faced no struggles. Anyone could choose the light if darkness never called to them, but Anakin Skywalker had felt that call. He had stood on the edge of the abyss and felt it looking back, and he had chosen to step away, not once, but every day, for the rest of his life. That was the true lesson. That was the gift he left to generations yet unborn, the proof that the enemy within could be defeated, that fear could give way to courage, that love was stronger than hate, that redemption was possible for anyone willing to reach for it. On countless worlds, in countless ages, beings facing their own darkness would remember his story. They would find the strength to make the same choice he made, to choose the light, to choose love, to choose hope. And in doing so, they would carry his legacy forward into a future of peace, of balance, of possibility. A future that began with a single decision in a darkened office, when Mace Windu refused to hesitate, and the galaxy was saved. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.